Okay, boss. What is Windows authentication? Windows authentication is a method of which a system, Windows, authenticates a user, make sure that the user have the valid credentials to prevent unauthorized users from using the system. And that's usually done using a username and a password. That's basically it. Every laptop, every desktop, every server, every login has that to just make sure you're authorized to have access to that system. And so, why does SQL Server uses Windows authentication? SQL has two modes of authentication. One is the Windows Server and one is the SQL Server. It uses the Windows Server basically because, as it says in the documentation, Windows Server is more secure than SQL Server. It uses a protocol that allows the password to be more secure, the new technology NAND manager or the Kerberos security protocol. For example, when you enter a password, it requires it to be a certain length. It requires it to have certain characters to make it more difficult to hack and to make it more complex. It allows the account to be locked out if the user tries maybe 3 times and does not get the password, and it also allows the password to expire. For these security reasons, SQL uses a server authentication. Now, what's the difference between authentication and authorization? Authentication, as was rightly said, make sure that you authorize to have access to the system, just like when you have an ID card to enter into a government building. So you can enter. And what is authorization? The ID card may have a color code of some sort by which it can be determined which floors, which rooms you have access to, and that is authorization. So authorization determines in SQL means what databases, what resources, what schemas, and other things like that, queries do you have access to in order to prevent unnecessary access to the data. And to show that SQL has these two features, I'm going to demonstrate it by displaying my SQL Server properties, and we can see that it has SQL Server and Windows Authentication mode, which is the mode that my server is right now. So how do we demonstrate authentication? Let me just show by trying to log in as one of the users, and this user uses SQL authentication and is the clerk. Okay, and entering his username and password. SQL Server has authenticated this user, he's allowed to use SQL Server. But the question is now, what resources, what is he authorized to do? So if I go into databases, and just let me try to click this Bowling League example, you can see he's denied access to that. To save time on this video, he is actually given access to sales order databases. And so if I go down into the sales order databases and I go into the table, um, we can see this table. If I try to access some of the table, we can see he can run queries on this, and that means he's authorized. But if he tries to go to any of the other databases, he's not allowed to do that. Thank and that explains authorization and in database. Now, in SQL, just as the question is that what would happen if we grant select permission to a table in a fixed database called public? Now, the fixed database that is called public is um, is a special database that gives default permissions to users in the databases. So every user that logs in into SQL database server also belongs to the public roles. And what this allows them to do is to view catalog views and display information from master system database that's using certain system uh, procedures. Now, if we should grant select to this role, it means that every user who logs into the system will be able to run queries on our system. And also future users, any new user that we have after that would also be able to do the same. And what are the dangers that this implies? It means our data is exposed. It means anybody can look at the data. It also means that there is lack of control because it's not limited to any person. And people can run inadvertent queries on our database. And I believe that completes the first show of this assignment. Thank you. In this second assignment, we're to show the four new schemas that we created in the process. We've been asked to just show the queries, so I'm going to show the queries. Right here, I'm creating my schema, early details, DET, and early admin in the bowling league. I'm creating the school advising and the school planning schema in this school scheduling. These are the queries that transfers the databases to each of the schemas that I've created. The first set for early details, for early admin, for school advising, and school planning. And these are the SQL statements that creates the login for each of the user early attend with a password and assigned to the bowling league, and also have um, uh, the operations assistant again to the bowling league. And I have to log in also for the records clerk in the school scheduling and assigned to that database, and also the faculty supervisor. Okay, and this also are the lines that assigns the uh, the schemas to the users for their login. I'm going to just go into login with one of the users. I believe I'm running short of time right now, but I'm going to log in with one of the users. Okay, and I'm going to go with Ali detail. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the schema. Ali attend, and he Ali attend is authenticated. Now it's assigned to the Ali detail and schema. And so if we go down to um, security, uh, go down to the databases, we can see that he doesn't have access to entertainment, but he has access to the bowling league. If we look at the tables, we can see that he has access to these files which have been moved to there. Um, and if I try to query that, we can see that he can query that. So Ali attend can access his or her schema. I'm going to move over to login another user just to show this. Um, this time I'm logging in the records clerk, which is right there now, and I think I gave the wrong password. Let me just retype that in. Okay, and he's authenticated. If I'm just so we have the records clerk now. Records clerk is in the school example. And again, if I go into the databases there, he cannot access worldwide. He cannot access any other database except the school. Um, and accessing the tables, you can see has all these in his schema, and if we open that, he can have access to it. Um, and basically that I'm going to stop on show 2 for now. The other 4 are there. My script here shows me creating the roles for DB row 1 and DB row 2, and then assigning them to Alice underscore det and underscore admin schema. Uh, and then I went on to create a new login, gave it a password, and then created new users for each of those new login, and then also altered the role of the DB1 to the users. And having done that, I would just want to now show that these new users can log in. So I'm going to try to connect using new user one and the password uh, for that. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not new user, it's new login, new login one. Okay, sorry about that. And if I come to the databases and in the bowling league, check on the tables, and we can see that they have the schemas there, and again they can access the data there. Like I said earlier, I'm really pushing for time based on the instructions given. The last show says we should show um, something that we've done, and I'm just going to run this query quickly on Bowling League. It's going to show me that I created I'm using the new login, so I need to disconnect from that. Okay, um, back in my login, I'm using Bowling League and run this again. Records clock. My apologies for that. I was using the wrong login to run that query, and I haven't fixed that. I'll just quickly run the query, and it shows the people that um, the users that were created um, in that query from the 1st of October, which I made. I'm also going to, then it's the second show for says to show something in the data security that might be useful for the business. And I'm going to show the people who have logged in, which is always a good information. This shows people who have logged into the database from the 1st of October. And thank you very much.